My mom stacked 2 stools to form a laptop stand, so then she asked me to build something more permanent. I start by gluing together several boards to get a board of the total width that I need. I'm using some of my long reach clamps to make sure the boards line up where they glue. Next I rip the wide board to the width that I actually need. The final width just barely still fits through my thickness planer. I'm using a sort of box joint to joint the top of the laptop stand to the sides, and I'm cutting those with my Screw Advance box joint jig. I couldn't be bothered to put a dado blade in my saw, so I'm just making several saw cuts for each slot that I need to cut. So that was a more complicated cutting sequence than usual for those fingers, and I did screw up on the first one. It's a bit too narrow. So that took all of 15 seconds to crank that carriage home. Some people suggest that I add some kind of quick release so I can just pull the carriage home, but if that mechanism took an extra hour to build, I would have to cut 240 full width joints before that time would be amortized. So I cut these fingers a second time because I had extra length left over, and let's check the fit with all that. Okay, so before I put those corners together, I'm going to have to put shelves in here because those have to come together from the side, and then I can put the top on from the end. So I want to dowel this board onto here, and for that I need to do a precise series of dowel holes, and that's my little invention here, my doweling T-square comes in. And I'm just going to put the jig on here, and it lines up, if I line it up with the marks on here, it lines up with those holes, and I can accurately drill through here. So I didn't drill a hole in every possible position because I didn't think I'd need that many dowels. So now I need to drill the same pattern of holes in the end grain of the shelves, and I'm going to use my doweling jig the way it's meant to be used. And to position the jig, I've clamped my doweling T-square on here, and I've got the same marks that I lined up the jig with on here. So I just put the dowel jig on here and line it up with those lines there. Well, visually they line up alright. Before I assemble the stand, I need to add a rabbet to the back edge for the back panel to fit into. And making some dowel pins from my homemade dowels. These need to be just a bit longer than the pre-made ones, so I can't really use those. Now comes the moment of truth to see if my dowel holes actually line up. I did not dry fit this, but that's what the hammer's for. Okay, here's the challenge. Will 18 dowels all line up and fit? Kind of, I guess. Maybe I should have dry fit this whole thing. this side. With a big enough hammer, you can make anything fit. Before I can put the top on it, I need to cut some small pieces of wood to fill the extra bit of the box joint that I cut. Now I need to smooth that off. I could sand it, but I think I'll try the jointer. Well, that turned out okay so far. Got some minor gaps here, but those will fill up if I do a little bit of sanding and then varnish right away, because then the sawdust goes in those gaps. Now squaring out the end of that rabbet that I cut on the table saw earlier. And here it is all done. Felt kinda odd making a project with no moving parts.